Welcome back to the Hot Rod Hangout podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And we had a pretty exciting week this week to recap. I went on a cruise with my mom and dad.
You did?
Yeah, that's we.
Oh, I'm
Got
sorry.
a mouse in my pocket, apparently.
Oh, I didn't hear. I'm sorry. I thought you said I.
No, we went on a cruise with mom and dad. We.
Okay.
And we finally got our building put up.
Yes, we did.
And boy, was that a process. But we'll start with the cruise last weekend with mom and dad.
Yeah.
As y'all heard in the episode, my mom and dad got a 34 Ford pickup truck, a little cool little cruiser. And they finally got to go for a cruise together. And we were fortunate enough to be able to go with them.
Yes.
Separately, not sitting on their lap. There's definitely not a room in that 34 for 4 people. There's hardly room for 2.
I was going to say.
But so we cruised to a local place, barbecue and ice cream down there in Dade City, Florida.
They're pretty good.
They're pretty good.
After we spent months and months and months talking about going and trying them out, and then finally one day we did.
Well, it was kind of a joke. I mean,
yeah,
that was always the place. Like if you knew nowhere to go, like, oh, go to barbecue and ice cream, and
that's literally the name.
And everyone would always go like, no, I don't think so. And we finally gave it a shot, and it's pretty good. Shout out to barbecue and ice cream.
Yes,
we'll accept sponsorships in form of food. Barbecue and or ice cream.
And your parking lot for cruisins, even though I think they already have one, don't they?
They did. I don't know if they're still doing it. We need to check in on that.
Yeah.
Definitely need to check in on that.
I wonder if they have a Facebook page.
I'll have to get my producer on that.
Who's that?
We don't have one, so.
Oh. I mean,
but,
you're a researcher.
Oh, well. I dropped the ball.
It's okay.
My bad.
I'm not saying you dropped the ball.
So, yeah, we met my mom and dad at their house, and 54's our 54's a little cold-blooded, so she warmed up about the time we made it to their house.
Just took a little convincing to get her started. And
then sitting there for, you cut my mama's hair and sitting there and talking and them getting ready to go. She cooled right off, so she ran just like a top on the.
Yeah.
Well, till we got going, and she got some heater in her, and she was running pretty good.
Yeah. Then we cruised out to the bar. I mean, when we left barbecue and ice cream, she started.
Yeah,
she started
was
out
good.
Pretty good.
It warmed up. It was a little cooler in Florida than it has been.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, so.
But it was pretty cool to be able to be cruising down the road and looking in the rear view and seeing them behind us, even though it was impossible to get a picture of them in our rear view mirror.
Yeah. So, and that's what this car scene kind of means to us, is trying to get everybody involved. And, my mom and dad my dad was involved in cars prior to me. I guess I'm responsible for the resurgent of him getting back into cars, because my obsession has kind of filled my weekends. So.
Oh yeah, because you got to be into cars to hang out with you.
If you're not into cars when you meet me, you probably will either end up being into cars or hating them completely.
But you don't. Not to go on and on, but I don't feel like you push it on people. Like when some people have a hobby, they want to push it on everybody else.
No.
I don't think you're not like that. It's just that you've never met a stranger in your life, so you'll talk about literally anything, even like sports that you don't really follow very much.
Yeah, how many home runs they got in their football bat game.
Yeah. But, I mean, the time we spend together is always revolving around cars.
Yeah, I mean, cars are kind of a universal language, which I'll go ahead and share the story from today. I haven't even told you this yet. I got to drive the 54 to work today. it's not a long trip. I didn't break out to, but you know, I'm a lot of times in the morning time, you know, she cold blooded, so she takes a little while to warm up. So I don't plan accordingly. And for the past little while, she's kind of been in yard jail because the way we had to park while they were building the building, and you know, while we had the concrete, I couldn't put anything on it because they may come tomorrow or they may come next week. And about every time I'd pull something up there, they'd text me and be like, all right, we're going to be there Tuesday. And they wouldn't show up. But we'll get to that on the building part. But so I finally got to cruise a 54 to work. Mm-hmm. I was a little chilly, but she started up and ran pretty decent for the weather that she don't really like. But and I don't work far enough away from the house for her to get warmed up. So, but she did all right. And so I back into the parking spot at work, and you know, it's a parking garage. So I put a park underneath the parking garage, and I'm backing in, and I see this guy kind of staring at me, and I'm like, you know, it's not me, it's the car. Like, ain't nobody staring at my ugly mug, staring at the car. So I'm thinking like, oh, well, is it something hanging off? Like, did the exhaust pipe fall off? Like, it could be anything with that car. You know, I honk if parts fall off, you know, or
I'll get that sticker.
I'll pull over and pick them up, throw them in the back seat, you know. But you know, it's an old car. You don't see a lot of them, especially around here. You know, they're starting to come. You're starting to see some pop up, and that's kind of what we're trying to do is get, you know, if people see us cruising, you know, maybe they'll want to bring out their stuff and you know, get to share stories. And you know, back in my days, you know, we're not really old enough for back in my days, but you know,
we're getting there.
I enjoy hearing people say, you know, they identify these cars, you know, they're an identity across the board. You know, everybody's mom or uncle or sister's brother's cousin had a classic car. So, you know, like the 54, you know, we've gotten stories when we go places, and it's, oh, you know, I learned how to drive in a 54. I took my wife on the first date in a 53 Bel Air, you know, and that makes it makes me happy to hear, you know, people out enjoying what we're doing. And I mean, the 54 is not a restored example. If y'all have paid attention to Facebook and Instagram and all the other things, you know, it is a survivor. It's original paint car. It does have some rust on it, but you know,
she makes it Michelangelo.
She rolls down the road pretty good. Well, kind of got squirreled there a little bit.
A little bit. That's okay.
Brian. So instead of squirreling, we're just gonna call it Brian. And
okay.
But so I back into the parking spot, and I get out, and the guy's like, "Is that 53?" And I said, "No, sir, it's 54." And he's like, "Oh, I got a 55." And you know, if you're not early to work, you're late. So I had some time to talk to him, and me and him stood there and talked for, I don't know, probably 15, 20 minutes just about cars in general. And I mean, he had a super, super clean 55. And, you know, and we got to talking, and, you know, he identified with the classic cars, and, oh, I don't get to drive it that much. And, you know, it was good to see a younger guy and his Spanish fella. And, you know, I could tell his English wasn't his first language.
Right.
But he was working through it. I mean, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you know, just if you get close, I'll try to communicate with you. And especially with cars, I mean, it's a universal language. Like I can sit there and talk to somebody, and they might call it something different, or it may not be the right words, but you can figure it out. And it's a shared passion for this car culture. So we ended up, and I told him, I said, you know, and I shared, you know, what we're trying to do, you know, and And it was just awesome because here's two people standing there that probably never would have talked to each other had it not been him seeing me back in an old car.
Right.
And he had a restored example of a 55 Chevrolet, but still took the time to recognize, oh, that's an old car. I like old cars. So let's sit there and talk about it. We shared pictures and just had a good conversation. And when I come out, I had went into work, obviously, and I drive for work. So I had an appointment this morning that I had to get to. So I come back out probably, 30, 45 minutes later, and he was waiting for the courthouse to open up. So he was still standing out there, and when I walked up, he seen me, and he got out, and, he said, hey, I know you're at work, but I just want to say, I appreciate what y'all are doing. And I didn't have no, I said, well, we're just trying to, basically our slogan, we're just trying to keep hot rodding alive. And I made a mistake. I didn't share the podcast with him. I should have said, hey, go listen to us. But I wasn't thinking that, because in this, it doesn't matter. We were having a good conversation, and I didn't share it because I'm not proud of it. It wasn't in the conversation. But it was just cool because I feel that makes me feel good when people in all generations understand that all we're trying to do is just grow this car community. The car community has brought me a whole bunch of friends or people that I know of that I can call up people and say, hey, I need this part. You got one? No, I don't have one, but I might know somebody.
Right.
And it's just a big network. And so the cruise with my mom and dad, we're driving down the road, and I was leading in the 54, and mom and dad are back there, and they're cruising, and they're still getting used to the truck a little bit. So, it's it's different than driving a new car. It doesn't have AC. It doesn't have heat. Which that may come in. We may not like that this weekend coming up. It'll be a little chilly.
A little bit.
But, it doesn't have power steering. Neither one of them have power steering. Neither one of them have AC or heat either. But, and looking back and just seeing my mom and dad enjoying, that truck's what, 90 years old? Yeah.
To the year.
Yeah, so that truck's 90 years old, and they're out just enjoying themselves. And, we weren't a ball of speed. We ran probably pretty close to the speed limit. I don't know. I don't have a speedometer, but I reckon it was pretty close to the speed.
Nobody was passing us.
Nobody was passing us, but we weren't also passing anybody either.
That's what I meant. We weren't passing. There were people passing us, so we were going under the speed limit at least.
Anyway, and, it was a good time, and seeing my mom and dad, with smiles on their faces, and we pulled into barbecue and ice cream, and, it was, hey, we got out, and people were giving us thumbs up on the road, and it's just an awesome experience when you see that. Ashley's brought up in one of the podcasts about the 54 that, we were pulling into a show, and the guy flips around from inside the show to take pictures of us cruising in, and it kind of gives you a little air in your chest, it pumps you up a little bit, puts a smile on your face, because the 54 is mine. I'm supposed to like it, but for other people to say they like it or want to talk about it, and I want to talk about their shit too, so. And then we got some pretty cool rolling shots. We got mom and dad got left in front of us, so they were leading on the way home. And
for a little bit.
And then we had to go, or we didn't have to go around them, but we went around them, got a shot of them, windows are so dark, couldn't really see their faces, but you could see that 4-foot fucking shift lever. But the graphics that we did on that truck turned out amazing. Mm-hmm. And so far, he hasn't blown them off the doors yet, so I guess I did something right. But
yeah, it was a good day overall. Got some good food, good cruise. Didn't go too crazy with it. But it was it was a lot of fun, and it was good seeing them, you know, because I guess I called them out on last week's podcast that they hadn't gone cruising together yet, and so it was good to see them together in that and enjoying life together again and bringing it back to the old days for them, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what it used to be like. But yeah, it was, go ahead. I don't know. I was just going to say that it was good, and, you know, I'm happy when I see your parents happy. Which is always nice, and I know your mom is absolutely ecstatic about that truck.
It is a pretty cool truck, and it looks like we're going to have my dad and Kenny on next week, and he can share a story. He called me today and told me a story of he actually got to take his hot rod out today too, and I let him tell that story though, because it did make my heart happy though to hear that, you know, because doesn't matter how nice your shit is if you don't get out and enjoy it. It doesn't matter. But and you know, then so we were coming back towards their house, and we had told them when we left Barbecue and Ice Cream that we were just gonna, you know, blow their road, and they were gonna make a left, and we were just gonna, you know, keep on keeping on. And we got to a red light, and I said, well, you know what? I'm going to buy Dad a drink for his birthday. So we cruised into a little local watering hole we got around here. And
the only.
It may or may not be the only bar in Bushnell. But so we pulled in there and got some adult beverages and you know, seen the local Facebook page. Yeah. Just walk in the bar and hear all the new gossip and all of that shit. So, but, you know, got to run into people that I ain't seen in a while because, you know, I'm not one. I'll have a drink, but I'm not one to go sit at a bar every day. Yeah. I can't afford it. I got car shit to buy. But
even if it is cheap drinks.
Cheap. But you know, but you get to run into people that you ain't seen, and quite a few of them hadn't seen Dad's new ride, and so you got to show it off a little bit. And a couple people, you know, I don't really go in there. Burp.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
I don't go in there a lot, so you know they don't really get the update on me. My dad don't go in there either, so, you know, seeing me in there was kind of a rare occasion. So some people, you know, they got to come out and check out the 54, and you know, we hope that us cruising around locally, you know, maybe gets these people, you know, if you have a classic car and it's sitting in your garage and it's, you know, a weekend away from being able to ride and, you know, drive. I mean, I'm not taking off to North Carolina or Texas anytime soon in the 54, but, you know, we want to grow locally, and then eventually we want to grow, you know, we want to grow the car scene here, and then, you know, but obviously we want to grow it everywhere. And trust me, we're not the only ones doing this. Like, if you start cruising your car around, other people see it, and, you know, maybe it'll kickstart them to.
Well, even on the way to Barbecue and Ice Cream, going the opposite way we were, there was that what was it? I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, oh, another cruiser.
Yep. Little flatbed, like C50 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean that's you get out, and I hope that us getting out will kind of grow this, and the people that maybe got their cars tucked away, or the car scene for a while. It was real big around here. Classic cars were a mainstay, but
and we're in the state to do it.
I mean we can cruise 99% of the year. I mean,
it might get a little hot in the summer, but you roll your windows down, natural AC.
Yeah, it's a little cold right now, and I drove home in the rain today with no wipers. Dad did the same. So, but basically, we're if you are local to Sumter County and you see us cruising, say hey, wave, flag us down. Well, I'm always down to bullshit. Bench race. And I mean, if you got something that you think we can help you with, or you just need some motivation, I mean, I can crack the whip. I can sit there and drink your beer for you,
Sit there and scratch our heads together.
Yeah, definitely. And then and that goes for anybody. Like, if you have a question, shoot it to us in a message. I mean, I might not be able to answer it, but I may have some people. And, it seems like, not to get sappy, but it seems like we're getting kind of a following behind us and people that want to support us. And, reach out. We want to see people, no matter the age. Take your grandpa's truck out of the barn and go cruise it. I mean, Caden, my buddy that was on the first episode with us, I mean, he's on Facebook scouring, and his life's about to make some changes, and I wish the best for him, and I hope it works out for the better. I really do. And that's what I want everybody to understand. Like, the negativity of this world, the only place that seems like it hasn't struck into is the cars. Yeah. Car people. We just want the best. We just want the best for you. We want, if you got something cool, and it might not even be cool to me. If it's cool to you and you're digging it, go cruise it, man. Like,
and it doesn't have to be like crazy expensive. I don't know how many YouTube videos that we've watched of people finding those like cheap marketplace deals and build a car under $1,000, build a car under 5,000, or selling parts to do this. And I mean, there is work involved in it. The
$1,000 cars. I mean, that's a lofty goal. You have to have some fabrication skills,
but
those $5,000 running and driving projects are out there. A little harder to find those $5,000 projects in Florida, but there's people with trailers. There's people that'll ship. There's ways to get around it. If you find that good deal, and especially I've noticed here in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks, you'd be surprised. I talked about in the first episode that these old people were holding on to their cars. I'm starting to see, and it makes my heart happy, because it's going to make the car culture grow. But you're starting to see these, I'm not going to get to it, cars. I thought I was going to get to it. I got too many cars. Heaven forbid, grandma passed away. The barn finds that they're a weekend or 2 weekends away from being able to run, drive, and stop. If a car run, drives, and stops, you can cruise it and work on it when you can afford it. I mean, you don't have to build a car as soon as you buy it. Like Michelangelo, we bought it knowing that I had to put some money into it, but it drove itself on the trailer. It drug itself down the road. Yes, it had an exhaust leak. Yes, we're still fighting that exhaust leak because of the way the manifold is. But I think I might have figured out how to do that. It was weird, and I had a conversation with Caden today. I said, hey, bud, I said, usually this is the other way around, but do you happen to have one of these? Normally I'm the one with the tools, and he's asking me if I got one, and normally I do, but this I didn't have. But I come up with something, and it's not meant for what I'm going to try to use it for, and who knows if it'll work or not.
But that's most of the stuff that we do is it's not meant for that, but we're going to try it anyway.
Yeah, the car was a little warmer. I would have already tried it. I may have burnt my hand on it trying when I got home.
Oh my God.
But, I do my best work in the dark, so we might go out after the podcast and try it.
Oh, jeez. It's freezing.
Yeah, it's a little cold. But, and like I said, if you're local to us, reach out. And if I don't know how to do it or we can't figure out how to do it, I'm not scared to ask people. I'm not scared to Google it. I'm not scared to YouTube it. If you're local and you want to throw me some diesel, I'm not driving to Texas to go pick you up a car. But if you're in Florida and you're a supporter of us and you're going to add to the car culture that we're trying to grow, if there's anything we can do, I will help y'all. Because Lord knows the more people in this, the more help we're going to have when, hey, I need that 32 grill show. Hey, I need this. You're
acting like we need a 32 grill show.
I do need a 32 grill show.
Preferably chopped or not chopped?
Don't matter. Preferably chopped with a small block Chevrolet radiator in it, but,
I was going to say, you have a preference.
Beggars can't be choosers at this point. But, yeah, and yes, and I know that there's going to be people that listen to this podcast that are going to scream when I say this next statement, but use what you have. If you're putting a car together and, like, I'll use a good for instance, the 32 that I'm building, it has 40 front brakes on it. That's a common modification. But if the front end you buy or the car you buy, the project you buy doesn't have brakes, throw disc brakes on it if that's what you can get your hands on. The 32 I have doesn't have a banjo rear end. It's got a 9-inch in it. I'm looking for a turbo 350, so if anybody out there has a turbo 350 with a converter in it, and they would like to let it go cheap, because I am just over broke. But if I come across a deal on a turbo 400, guess what? There'll be a turbo 400 in it. I'm going to use what I have available to me. And, I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy, Brookville makes awesome stuff. But I'm also not going to go buy I don't know if y'all listened to the live last night, but I really, really want a Model A coupe or sedan that's channeled and stuff like that to kind of add to the 32 collection. If I found a 27, that would be even better because that year has significance to Ashley. But I'm not going to go spend $10,000 on a body from Brookville. I'm not going to go spend $5,000 or $6,000 on a chassis. If it comes to me, it comes to me. And it'll be what it is. Start somewhere. Get out in the shop.
Or carport.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute. But, go to shows. If you see something cool, talk to the people. That's the biggest thing is if y'all want to do this, come up, talk to me. If you have kids, I can't speak for everybody. And I'm not saying please don't take this as if you see a fully restored car that's got 100 hours worth of paint work and it's one color. Keep your kids' hands off of that car. But if you see any of my cars, whether it's the 54, whether it's when the 32's done, if you're a kid or if you have a kid and you see us, holler at me. I'll throw your kid in the seat, because I was that kid growing up. And I'm not saying if it's a nice car, make sure you ask. Don't just come up and sling somebody's door open. But kids are the future. And that's basically what this is all about is we're trying to keep this alive. And whatever you're into, air ride, hydraulics, lifted, lowered, static, big wheels, donks, and the 53,000 other bombs and all those other categories of cars. Whatever you're into, somebody out there. And I saw a sign at I think it was a dirt track. I saw it. And it was basically, some kid in the stands wants to be where you're at. We all started in the stands. Mm-hmm. So be nice. If somebody walks up and they don't know as much as you or they're trying to learn and they admit to it, and that's another thing. Admit when you don't know. No one should, not going to say they won't, but nobody should, downgrade you because you don't know something. Because we were all there. Some people had amazing teachers and their dads owned shops or their dads worked with them. That's my case. My dad, me and my dad wrenched on diesel trucks together for 2 or 3 years. But I was in the shop with him prior to that. And it was a dirt floor carport. The S10 that we built was a dirt floor carport. And, and that's, everyone starts somewhere. And everybody wasn't blessed with, their dad having the knowledge. Caden's a prime example of that. He didn't grow up in a car family. But he's got an interest in cars. And Caden, if you're listening to this, I'll say it on here too. Anything he needs that I can help him with, I am game to help.
Well, you got people like Caden and that, knowledge wasn't passed down from generation to generation. And then you've got, not to throw the girl card, but I'm going to throw the girl card. Like, I know my sperm donor, he is restoring a old, I don't even know what year because I wasn't really involved in it, but an old fire truck, and it's still.
I think he falls in the category of a hoarder too. I don't think he's doing anything on it. It's just sitting there.
Well, there's
just to say that he has one.
Well, I think part of it is who he decided to marry as well. But besides the point, when he was out there working on it as I was growing up, in the little time I did spend, like, I knew he had the knowledge. He does have the knowledge, but maybe not all of it. But he wouldn't pass that down to me. He wouldn't. Hey, come watch me do this. It was, hey, why don't you go inside? This is dirty, or this is this, or no, don't touch that, don't do this. So it was, you get a couple different, you got Caden where it just wasn't passed down, and then I wasn't allowed to. But now I'm allowed to, thanks to you. But anyway.
And that's another thing is when we're talking, I know sometimes I may put a gender on it. There is girls, young ladies, women of all ages that I couldn't put I feel like I have a decent amount of skills, but I know that I couldn't hold a candle to the work that they can do. And, and it's not, I feel like the car world, there isn't those gender stereotypes. I've seen girls that could lay a welding bead down better than I could. I've seen girls that can do impressive interiors. I've seen guys that can do impressive interiors. I've seen guys that are great welders. It is all about finding that niche. Like my dad said, last episode, if you're a group of people, if you find a group of guys, gals, and just get together, and you'll either learn or you'll have somebody to fail with. And sometimes the best way to learn is fucking shit up. I mean, that's, sometimes it requires you to take the remote control apart and somewhat get it back together to learn on the next one.
Just like when I took the washer apart. I still didn't get it fixed, but I put it back together.
Well, you didn't improve or make it worse.
Correct.
So that's a win. And that's the thing. And there's going to be little tweaks and little tricks, and and there's different type personalities. A good, for instance, is I'll say this first and then I'll go back to that. You can learn something from everybody. My dad is quite a bit older than me. He has quite a bit more mechanical experience than me. But there's certain things, like when we were working on the steering of the 34, he asked me, because with building the 32, I've engrossed myself in learning how crossover steering works, what could make it work better, what could do this, what angle should that axle be at. And it's little things that a lot of times, even in YouTube videos, they just pass on because it's the boring stuff. It's setting up a 4-link. It's the boring stuff. Oh, you weld these tabs, you put these bars, they hook up there, and it's supposed to work. Transmission stuff. If anything happens on a transmission, I'm taking it to somebody, because there's magic inside that case. The motor spins it one way and it spins it the other way, and some gears attach over, and somehow it multiplies it out and makes the back tires go like, I don't know, like, and usually people that are good at transmission work are a little off their rocker.
I feel like you'd have to be in order to
there's a lot of parts inside that little tiny case. And ball bearings in this place makes the transmission do this, and you can deep dive on transmissions. And it doesn't matter what you're good at. If you're good at something, stick with it. Because you may meet somebody that's really good at the thing that you're not good at, and you're good at the thing that they're not good at. And now all of a sudden y'all both have cooler shit because he helped you, or she helped you, or and you helped them, and now y'all both got cool shit to cruise. You know, and everybody needs to just pump everybody up, because we all started at the same place. Some people started later in life, but if your dad taught you how to weld at 10, your welds looked exactly like that 30-year-old that's trying to weld for the first time too. Except for he's more mad because now he probably spent money on a welder, and now he thinks that he just wasted money. Your 5 or 10-year-old self, your dad bought that stuff. And, you know, and then now you're welding everything that you can weld together. Your dad's mad because you welded a frame to a frame, and you got Coke cans in the corner that are welded together just because when you learn something, you want to keep doing it, especially if you're halfway decent at it.
Or you just got a line going across the hood when we tested out your...
You may have to test cut a hole in a 32 hood to weld it back together just to make sure that you have the settings right. But, you know, that's just everybody get out, and, you know, even if you don't have a car, come out. If you're interested in cars, come out. Talk to us. I promise we won't bite hard. You know, and unless you like that. But, you know, and we need to be, for the people that are in this, we need to be approachable, because if we don't get more people involved, we're going to lose this. You know, I'm not ready for the Jetsons. I'm not ready for electric cars yet.
Oh, no. I'm not, no.
You know, I mean...
No electric. I'm good.
But...
I like the smell of diesel burning.
Diesel in the morning.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of the cruise recap.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move on to the building recap.
And the nightmare.
It was, but it's finally done.
And it does look good. I think it does.
Looks okay. But, you know, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. But we had to make the best of what we had. We didn't have space to put a big shop up. So we had to deal with a shed port, utility carport, you know, whatever you want to call it. But we went back and forth with, and ended up being 3 total people. Mm-hmm. We thought we had a guy that was going to do it, and it was actually, he figured out he was going to be able to give us a full enclosed shop, and 2 bays, and that would have been good. 2.5 bays or whatever. But he ended up not wanting our business for some reason. Stopped answering his calls. So we don't know what happened there. But It is what it is. So we moved on, and we went and we shrunk the building down to kind of fit it somewhere different, just because it made more sense. You know, the piece of property that we're on, putting a 25 by 30 building on the back of it wouldn't have made sense to anybody but me. You know, you'd have had to find that car guy, because where we live, the type of property we live on, it wouldn't have been advantageous to have that building back there for the next owner. We agreed that this isn't our forever home. So we made the decision to do a carport with storage. That way it offers 2 car parking spots in the front yard, for normal people. It offers 0 parking for us currently, because the 54's in one bay and the 32's in the other.
But at least they're both covered. They're not
sitting out in the open anymore.
Yeah.
And then the shed port will give me room to, you know, store my tools and the parts and stuff that is currently in our spare bedroom / podcast studio / guest suite.
With no guests.
With no guests, yeah. But so we found a company. I'm not going to mention the name. I'm not happy with how they handled it, but it doesn't matter to the internet who it was. If you're in the market for a building and you want to know who not to go with, feel free to private message me. But blasting them on here would just give them more publicity, and I don't think that that's the right way to go about it. There was a lot of balls dropped, no pun intended, but there was a lot of questions that should have been answered in the beginning that I couldn't get a straight answer on, and it ended up kind of biting us a little bit, but we'll get it figured out. The end result was the building got put up 3 weeks after they said they were going to be here to put it up. Yeah. But it's up, and they demanded payment before I even seen the finished product. Yeah. Which they didn't get.
Yeah, we were off on Monday, and they came Monday and did most of it. Yeah. And then they had to come back on Tuesday. Well, we both had to go back to work, and they finished like fairly early in the day. It wasn't even lunchtime yet when they had finished, and
it was 8:40.
Oh.
I had been at work for 10 minutes.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
I got the after effects of it because they didn't talk to me.
So I had gotten to work. So I had, and I work within 10 minutes of the house. So it wasn't like I left at 7:30 and then they called at 8:40. It was, I had just left probably 25 minutes before. And they didn't have the roll-up door installed, and they were still putting trim on and stuff like that. So they did it quickly, and I mean, I appreciate the timely manner that they built it. It wasn't the installer's fault. It was just the hurry up and wait that this world has become. It's a little frustrating, but basically called and asked for payment, and I said, well, I want to see the building before I pay you. It's not $10. It was a pretty good chunk of money. And basically the lady was very, very rude, and she hung up on me. So the gentleman that I had been dealing with this company, I called him, and he basically, in a shitty way, told me that per my contract, I was supposed to pay them as soon as the installation was complete, which I told him, well, one, I haven't seen the building. It wasn't finished when I left for work. And two, we had to pull a permit to put the building in the property. And I wanted to wait till it final to make sure that everything was good. And fortunately, he understood me wanting to see it, but kind of bucked me on, well, we can't wait for the permit. We have to get paid per whatever contract. So Ashley tried to call yesterday. The building finished on Tuesday. She tried to call yesterday to figure out,
how to pay these people.
Y'all wanted money, so I'm calling to give you money, and left a voicemail and didn't hear back from them till today.
Yeah, this morning.
When they informed her that it was going to be...
It was a 3% fee, which was going to be hundreds of dollars for them to take a card payment over the phone. So then I'm wasting, because the bank that we bank at is close to where I work, but also very busy. So I'm sitting waiting solid 30 minutes just to go in to do a wire transfer to save hundreds of dollars so we don't have to do a card payment over the phone. And then I send, they requested a copy of the wire to show that we sent it. I sent them a copy and have not heard a word since. So you wait a whole day, well, actually 2 days technically, I guess, to finally get back in contact with me about a payment. And then you get your money and then you go MIA.
And luckily, even though they were in a rush to get paid, luckily they're stalling around to call you back, allowed us, the county, to come out and do the final inspection.
Yep.
That passed, so I can start filling the building up with tools and stuff like that.
Our weekend's gonna be busy.
Yeah. So, you know, and this is kind of also, you know, a heads up. You don't have to have a 5,000 square foot shop. You know, the building on this building, the enclosed portion is 22 by 15.
Yeah. And
honestly, now looking at it, it probably could have been 10 or 12 foot.
Yeah.
And which would give us, you know, the carport portion is 20 by 22. Would have been nice if we'd have, you know, sucked that back and, you know, give ourselves a little room. But because with the man door, you got to leave, you know, 3 foot of swinging room.
Oh, yeah.
So
we do need to switch because right now Michelangelo's in front of the man door.
Yeah.
We need to switch them around.
Yeah. The 32 is a little shorter.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does. The Michelangelo, well, I mean, the Michelangelo's 16 foot and it works. I mean, the bumper is flush with the end of the carport. It will cover itself up. I mean, it's definitely not like it was. It was sitting in the middle of the yard. So that's good. And we got the 32 under the.
Yes.
And we need to flip them to the other side for main reason of just, you know, being able to get in and out, and also for security reasons.
Yeah.
Can't see the 32 over the 54 because the 32 is just a chassis currently.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it was funny because because I called the county before I went into the bank to make the payment because I wanted to see if the inspection had been done, and the lady from the county was very short with me because like she was like, you know, when she answered the phone she was slightly nice, but you could tell there was a tone to her voice. I'm like, okay, someone's not having
They're
a good
struggling right now. I mean, it is the first of the year and permits are final and
yeah, but she was like, what can I help you with? And I was trying to explain to her, I'm like, hey, I called, you know, a couple days ago to do an inspection. I just want to call. Okay, well, let me see. And da-da-da-da. Anyway, she didn't want to give me an answer. So she gave me the inspector's, I'm assuming, cell phone number because he picked up and didn't like say, oh, da-da-da-da, county, how can I help? No, it was
probably the county.
It was, what's up? I was like, oh, hi. is this so-and-so? Yeah, how can I help you? He was very nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, just calling to check on this permit. And he was like, yeah, I got too busy yesterday, but I went by today about lunchtime and I saw that tea bucket sitting out. And in the back of my head, it didn't click at first, but I'm like, he saw the bed of the truck on top of the chassis and thought it was a tea bucket.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, that's us. And he's like, yeah, y'all passed and everything looked good. And I was like, okay, cool. So I felt a lot better going into the bank and making that nice payment. But it worked out, and it's gonna at least maybe not hit all the boxes, but at least we have somewhere to work in for the next like year and a half or whatever that we are still in this house.
We're still going to build cool shit no matter what it is, you know, but, you know, you just have to, and it's the same with hot rods. You got to deal with your bullshit. Yeah. You know, and the current situation didn't allow for my big shop. But
next one,
it allows me to park 2 cars side by side. I got the car I can cruise. I mean, I can go rough it smoothly. I can go out and hit the key on the 54 and she'll run.
Yes.
As long as it's warm.
And I mean, the shed portion of the carport shed I don't even know what to call it. I just keep calling it a carport shed. But I feel like the shop portion of it is bigger than the half a car garage from the old house that housed a lot of shit. And we've got a little bit.
Well, it's 1 foot smaller than that.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm. It was 16 by 22 with a garage door on the short side. This one's 15 by 22
it just
with a garage
bigger.
door on the other side. Well, it's wider, but, you know, with dealing with the cars that we tend to deal with, Michelangelo won't fit in there, but if I had to get Moonshine tucked in there, I could.
Yeah.
You know.
And I feel like we may do that. Luckily, you know, it is under a roof right now, but if there's, I mean, we do live in Florida, and we occasionally get the lawn chair blown over from a hurricane, but if there was anything super severe, we could pull them into, or pull Moonshine into the shed portion, and then, you know, pull my car, most likely my car, because your truck is freaking giant. But either way, we would be able to make it work. And, you know, yeah, I mean, it's gonna at least do something for the meantime while we're here. And, you know, like Matt said, we're gonna build cool shit and work with what we got. I mean, that's what this is all about. That's what Matt preaches on a regular basis. Work with what you got. And, you know, we can now move his toolbox and engine stand and hoist and this and that and everything, and it finally be in a shop, small shop, but in a shop that can actually have a little bit of room and room to move around in, and, you know, make the little shed that is currently in our backyard actual storage, and the front shop be your shop, and be able to start working on the 32 and see what we can make out of that. And you can teach me a few more welding tips and tricks and whatnot, because you went and bought this beautiful welder, and I'm desperate to learn how to weld something. You let me do a little test strip, and I about got giddy because I was so excited.
And that's what this is all about, you know, enjoying time. I mean, yes, cruising is a blast, and going out and meeting people like that. But for us, or for me even, more specifically, I'm only talking for me, but I enjoy spending time with you, getting working hands.
Oh yeah. Have we explained?
No.
So every time that we work on something, the more oil and dirt and grease and whatnot that I can get on my hands.
Disclaimer. So every shop I've ever worked in, you can always pick out the newest mechanic by how disgusting they are. Because the longer you're into working on cars, the more you realize, don't use Buddha as your holder. It's not the messier you can get. But Ashley, on the other hand,
I get so excited, and every time we work on something, I always like when we were working on Michelangelo in your parents' carport, and my hands were like jet black, and I think I ran up to your dad and I put my hands in his face. I'm like, I got working hands, because I was so excited, because this is, you know, okay, I might look like a newbie in a normal shop setting, but I don't care. I think it's awesome.
And it's about, you know, like, I enjoy cruising with you, and I enjoy working on stuff with you, but it's cool. To me, it's cool, you know, working on something, and then you stand back and you look at it and you go, okay, I made a difference. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's, oh, that was cool, or, well, that'll hold. You know, the 54, you know, we didn't cut corners on it, but there was more that could have been done.
Yeah.
But we reached the money limit that I had set for that job because of it snowballing. Extra money had to go come from somewhere, and that killed that budget. We've spent basically what I wanted to spend on that car the whole time we had it, trying to get everything fixed on it, and we've turned it into a pretty cool little driver. And driving it to work today, it was cold. There's no heat. I fired it up and let it run for probably 10 minutes before I left the house, but it didn't want to act right. I'll pull out on the road and it's spitting and sputtering because it's cold. It doesn't want to go. It wants to go back to its little covered parking area that it just acquired yesterday.
Yeah, now it's spoiled.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's always gonna have a special place in our heart, not only because of the work we put into it, but and the cruises that we took, and you put me behind the wheel, and I don't think I'll ever forget that day, because it literally meant so much to me that you put me in situations that scare me to death, but in the same sense, I know you're going to catch me if I fall. So I might huff and puff and panic attack my way through it, but
we're going to die together. I was in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was walking next to you. Like it was, if this goes wrong, it goes wrong for both of us and the car.
Well, we're in a parking lot 10 minutes away from the house, and you're like, okay, you're going to drive it home. And I'm like, there are roads where you need to go 45 miles an hour down. That's not going to happen. But I mean, there's a lot of memories, and I'm very excited of what the 32 is going to bring us, because that's an actual build. Like, this isn't like a running, driving car. We got an engine in the backyard. We got the intake sitting next to me here. We got the chassis under the carport with the
bed just sitting on it.
The bed just sitting on it. The cab of it in the other corner of the yard with a tarp over it to protect it. Like, we have it all spread out right now, and that it's going to be, I already know it's going to be a lot of weekends, long nights when we get lights out there. Shit, before we get lights out there, it's going to be late nights. But we're gonna get that thing up and running, and there's gonna be blood, sweat, and tears in that, and I'm so excited to see. Maybe I'll learn something.
We got some cross members that the 32 frame has currently that have to get cut out, and we're gonna box the frame on it. We have the boxing plates already.
Yeah.
And then put some Pour 15 on it to get it. Some rust protection, so it doesn't, rust away. Yeah. And it's got some body work or some rust repair that needs done. I have all the panels in the backyard, back where the chassis and the bed was sitting. And that'll be after it'll probably be running and driving before I tackle any of that. I do want to look at the floor. It's got a channeled floor in it now, but they kind of stopped it for some reason at the cab instead of going down to meet up with the door. So there's a gap. But just small little things that the previous person did that, would they work? Yeah.
And when we say previous person, we're not talking about the person that we bought it from.
The person before the person before the gentleman that I bought it from.
Yeah, the gentleman we bought it from is, well, one, freaking awesome, but he was starting to acquire, he acquired the panels for us and gave them to us in the deal, but he was starting to acquire little bits here and there to start working on it, and just needed room in his garage.
Yes.
So then we got it for a good deal. Thank you.
And it was, when you're going to buy these cars, I mean, it's both parties got a good deal. It's not like I didn't undercut him. It wasn't like I cut his throat to get a really good deal. I mean, I paid fair probably low end, but fair low end price. I didn't beat him up. He was asking right in line with what I thought it was worth. Being an iconic 32, it's worth more just because it's a 32.
I do slightly feel we kind of got the better end of the deal, though, in the sense of you now have somebody that we can call and say, hey, we have a problem, Houston.
And it's also, and again, this going back to what I said earlier, this car culture will bring people together, and we got invited to, he does a little shindig at his house, and we got invited to go to that. Yes. So that was awesome.
I feel so honored.
I think he's kind of sliding us in because my car doesn't necessarily fit what it's all about, but he also does have a 54, so maybe it was I have a 54 too. His is in nicer shape though, but mine runs and drives, so
yeah,
it's a back and forth. His body is way better than mine, but mine runs and drives. So, and I don't know the plans for that car. I hope to have him, and he's got a buddy that's helping him build his Roadster. Another traditional build. I hope to have them both on the podcast at some point.
Just have to do a little persuading.
Probably together, so they don't feel doesn't feel so awkward. And it was funny when I brought that up to Ryan. I told him I wanted to have him and Chris on, and he said, well, I would be honored, and Chris, you might have to persuade. And I said, well, we talk cars, and he was like, oh, you're good then. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it doesn't matter how shy you are. If you get, like, Ashley's really, really introvert. She's not that person. Like, I'll talk to you about anything. Like, water's wet, sky's blue. But I'll talk about anything. But Ashley, she's a reserved one, and that works in our relationship because
I feel like a lot of people already know that. I mean, I feel like on our podcast, I talk just a tiny bit more than I do anywhere else.
Oh yeah. So, but going back to that, if you get her talking about cars, she'll talk to you. Hey, if you can't get them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit. All right, so she'll talk to you. It might be complete and utter bullshit. She might be pulling out her ass, but she'll stand there and talk to you. And the cars that we own, and that's the unique thing about the car culture is I wouldn't have Ashley tell you about a car that we don't own. Yeah. The cars that we own, she can probably run them down just like I can.
Well, not as good as you. There's still a couple things about it that I trip up on a little bit, but I am getting a lot better than especially with Michelangelo. When we first got him, I didn't know he had an S10 5-speed in it, and now I can say that because I have a little bit more confidence. But I mean, even if I don't know everything, and I'm never going to admit that I know everything because that's not possible.
No, you can never be done learning in this.
No, and I feel that I will sit there and I mean, even between you and I, like I remember so many nights even talking about a rotary engine. I sat there and listened to you for almost 2 hours explaining it to me, and me just soaking it up and then pulling it up on YouTube and you showing me diagrams on YouTube and whatnot. I will sit there and listen to someone talk about it for hours because it interests me. And if I can get a little bit of information every time somebody wants to sit there and talk to me about something, I'm a happy camper.
And that's the thing is, and I'm not an expert on rotary engines by any means, but there are guys out there that are a plethora of information on rotaries. Mm-hmm. There's guys that are a plethora of information on flatheads, and I look forward to having one of them on when we can make that happen. Mm-hmm. that'll be a little surprise for the podcast whenever that happens. I will promote the shit out of it when we do nail down a date. But some guys are die-hard Volkswagen guys. There's die-hard Ford guys, Chevrolet guys. Growing up, I was notoriously a Chevy fan. Obviously, I named my dog Chevy.
So you leave the yard.
I would have named him Ford, but I wanted him to be able to leave the yard. But and that's I have a Ford now, and I love that truck, sort of truck, piece of a truck,
soon to be truck,
somewhat all their truck. But it will have a Chevrolet motor in it. It's just what I know.
And it's everybody's preference too. I mean, like we know people that have Fords. We know people that have Yodas and Nissans and whatever.
I mean, my yard is diverse. New stuff. We have a newer Chevrolet. We have a newer Ram. Gas, diesel.
Yeah.
I have an older Harley. Well, not old, but it's almost 20. 19 years old.
Nikes. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is ironic because I bought it at 19. So
that sounds scary.
But unfortunately, that probably will be that'll be for sale soon. Probably. I keep going back and forth. We could go into that a little bit. I mean, I bought it when I was 19. I had a motorcycle accident on it. I hit a deer Christmas Eve of 2009. It got fixed. It's had a life of rode hard, put away wet. I was a 19-year-old that rode a bagger before baggers were cool. And then baggers started becoming cool, and I had a blacked out bagger. And then everybody started blacking their shit out, and then I was like, well, performance bagger, and no one heard of performance bagger, and I had that. So, I've always been, speed has always been my my addiction, I guess. And when me and Ashley first met, I had mentioned, man, I really wish it was a road glide. And as supportive as she's always been of me, she told me, well, go trade it in for a road glide. And I was like, no, that do you see what they're asking for those things? I can't afford that.
Well, of course, I didn't know any better. I just wanted to support you in any way.
Yeah. She's my ride or die. So, and so they do sell a kit to convert them. Like, she's like, well, let's do that. And I said, okay, well, so I went and I rode a road glide, and I come back and the salesman's like, what'd you think? And I was like, oh, it's really it's slow. It's anemic. Like, and he's like, you said yours is an 05. This bike's got, your bike's an 88 cubic inch, and this one's a 103. Like, this bike ain't slow. And I'm like, oh, it's really slow compared to mine. And, it's my bike. I believe it has a 95 kit in it. I bought it with it, but it's got a 45 Mikuni hanging off the side of it. And it does all right. I mean, it's still 1,000 pounds with me sitting on it. And they'll all get you in trouble if you twist the throttle hard enough. But that bike has always been impressive. I mean, and I've put 75,000 miles on that bike. I've rode it rain, sleet, no snow.
Just a lot of rain.
But a lot of rain. Like most people when they first get their bike, it's an 80% chance of rain. Well, that's 20% it won't. I'm riding, and you get drowned because that's what happens. The weatherman is the only job that you can lie every day, but if you're on a motorcycle, they'll tell you the truth. It's going to rain on you. But anyway, so I went and I rode that bike, and I was like, it's slow. And he's like, well, ride this one. And my bike has, at that time it had 12-inch ape hangers on it. And he's like, we got this brand new 114 Whiz Bang, Screaming Eagle edition, and
like it was a sexy looking bike.
It was.
You sent me a picture of it,
It
and it
was.
was very nice looking.
But it had a set of 13s on it, so it matched up to what mine would have been when I converted it. And I rode it, and I was like, okay, so this is comparable performance wise, so I wouldn't have to start over again. And the ride was good, so I knew at that point, I'm like, well, then I definitely want to do the conversion. And I come back, and the guy's like, oh, okay, so what can we do to get you to take the bike home today? I said, the only thing you can do for me to take it home, one, is to just trade me straight across, because, I ain't got no money. And he said, well, if you want a road glide, this is the only way you're going to get one, is to buy one. And I don't do well with people telling me I can't do something. So I said, well, I'll just convert mine to a road glide. And he said, you can't do that. I said, well, yeah, you can. The chassis is the same from the neck back on all of the touring bikes, from that year. Not saying that my chassis is the same as the 2019 or whatever one that I rode. They changed the chassis through the years, but an 05 Electric Glide is the same chassis as an 05 Road Glide.
Up to a 2018, because that's no
13.
13
and down.
Did we get? I thought we got an 18 fairing.
Nope. Oh. 18 has a hole in it. 13 and down.
See, that's why.
14 and up. Now you're good. But you can mount. I found out after the fact you can mount 14 and up fairing on that same bracket. We come across the painted set
the ratchet brackets.
Huh?
The ratchet bracket.
Fuck those brackets. But I found an awesome paint set, of course, right after my bike gets finished.
But that was the first. That was the first time you brought me into the garage to work on something with you.
That was our first project, because at that time, when I met Ashley, I was at a pretty effort stage of my life. I had been through some heartache in more ways than one, and I was trying to get a little powder coating business going, and people were taking advantage of, free stuff, and me trying to get my name out there, and when you're starting out, you trade work. Mm-hmm. And I made a deal with a local bike shop for some powder coat work, for some work on my bike, Betty. I know, unique, black Betty, but I made a deal with them, and then, they had some issues between the people that worked there, and when it came time for that work to be completed, no one remembered that deal. Yeah. Which, it is what it is, life lesson. Some lessons in life are more expensive than others. Luckily, it wasn't like I did $5,000 worth of parts for him. It was just, it happened.
Yeah.
And when I brought it up, he tried to make it as right as he could, but, with the business, with what it went through, he couldn't make the deal the way we had discussed it previously, but he tried to make it as right as he could, and it is what it is. So I had the Harley Bible. Anyone that's familiar with motorcycles knows what I'm talking about. It's the big service manual. It's specific for your year.
It is giant.
And it has literally every bike that Harley made in that category, whether it's a touring, a Softail, a Sportster, Dynas. Did I say Softail?
Yes.
It has all of the families. So if you buy a 2005 touring Harley Bible, it's going to have electric glides. It's going to have street glides. It's going to have road glides. It's going to have the electric glide standard, which is what Betty started as. And there's going to be stuff for all of them. And some of the stuff applies. and the police bikes. And some of the stuff applies, some of the stuff doesn't apply. So I am decent with new wiring. I'm not so decent with previous wiring. So I probably could have struggled through it, and maybe it would have turned out, maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe the left blinker would have lit when I hit the right blinker, but so I sat Ashley in front of the bike and had a pair of wire. I took the fairing off, or took the outer fairing off, and I don't know if anybody's been in a fairing of a touring bike.
Oh, the monstrosity.
Even in a standard, the radio harness is already there, and when you take the outside fairing off, it literally looks like it pukes itself. Mm-hmm. Wires, you wonder how you're going to get all of them back in there. So I decided to add some more wiring to extend shit. So the new, fairing and the gauges, and, because a Electric Glide fairing has all the gauges in the fairing. Mm-hmm. Road Glide has the speedometer and the tack on the handlebars. So those wires had to get extended. And
yes. And I think, didn't we go with a slightly, we went with 15-inch handle.
Yeah, the handlebars that I had on the bike, I was on the fence. I didn't know if they were going to fit, because Street Glide, they come out of the fairing. In a Road Glide, the handlebars are between the fairing, because a Road Glide fairing is fixed to the frame, whereas a Street Glide, Electric Glide, the fairing turns with the handlebars,
which helps with the pressure of steering when you are going at high speeds.
Yeah, with the fairing, or with a steering mounted fairing, you get pressure, wind, gust, more on the interstate. It'll hit one side and you're constantly fighting it. Some people say it affects them more. I never really realized it was affecting me until I did the Road Glide swap, and then I was like, holy. And, on our particular bike, it took 36 pounds off of the steering. Yep. By putting the fairing mounted to the chassis, you're no longer turning all that wiring that I was just referencing when you turn the handlebars. So it makes the steering a lot better, in my opinion. Some people don't like the fact that you kind of have to know what's in the direction you're turning, because your headlight is going to stay straight with the bike.
And in the same sense too, I mean, yeah, that can be slightly inconvenient, but I mean, when you're driving a car, your headlights don't turn with your handlebars.
That is,
you know what I'm saying? True.
They do make cars though that headlights turn.
Well, we're not that fancy.
Yours do.
Mine do?
They're just slight.
Oh.
BMW does it with
aggressively.
your steering. Like if you turn it a little bit, they go a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I like the ride of the bike. It did very well. And then that got us into. I said, "Oh, I'm just gonna take the stuff that I swapped off," because I put the one touch opening saddlebags from a 14 and up bike on a 13 and down bike. So I had saddlebags and a fairing and miscellaneous other stuff that I had to change to do the swap. I was like, oh, I'll just take these to the swap meet. We're 20 minutes from the swap meet. I'll just take them over there. I'll sell these, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
And that turned into
a year and a half.
Well, I kind of like this extra money, so go buy this for $20 and sell it for $30 or $35, or sometimes buy it for $20 and sell it for $15.
And a year and a half of doing that the first Sunday of every month.
And then my mom and dad were like, hey, we'll come help you. And then it turned into all four of us, and it was a good time. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. And, it was a good time, and made a little bit of extra cash, and it afforded us the ability to be able to, have a little extra, because who can't use a little extra?
Yeah.
But it just turned into, what we were trying to do, that was going to affect us, because, I was getting off work, and, me and Dad were loading up and going to get parts, or, have to go organize parts or stuff like that. It just got busy with life, and me and Ashley knew that, at the tail end of that, we were living in a camping trailer in my parents' backyard.
Undisclosed location.
Yeah, somewhere in Sumter County. So we knew that we wanted to, when we got our house, we knew that we wanted to switch to, more focusing on the cars. We wanted to build some cars. We wanted to, have that. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to dedicate the time that was necessary to continue to make that prosperous.
Yep.
So, as a family, we come to the decision that me and Ashley were going to step down, and, it was what it was. And my mom and dad were kind of on the fence whether they were going to continue to do it, because, it helped them. It helped them to, it gave my dad, he talked about a couple of guys that, you meet friends, you talk, these vendors that you see every month kind of become your friend. Yeah. And I mean, and you talk about what you're building, and it gives the same with this, like, I want to hear what you're working on there. Somebody'd come by a part, and the next month they'd come back and tell us how awesome it is. Or we didn't have any, your fucking bullshit, but we didn't have any of that. But, people making stuff work for an application that it wasn't designed for. And that's what that's the car culture to us. Like, I don't care that, that hood was supposed to go on this.
You bend it to make it go on that and paint it to match.
And that's what it was all about. So,
and I think that's I've even heard it a few times, whether it's at the motorcycle swap meet or at the car swap meet or anywhere. Well, it's supposed to go on this. Well, it doesn't. I mean, it helps to know what it was supposed to go on, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to put it back on that.
and there are some people that, if you don't say the exact year, make, and model of their bike, they're not gonna, 14 and up Harley touring.
Well, I have an 18. It's not going to fit.
Does not fit an 18. I mean, or if you say, oh, it fits a 13 and down. Oh, well, I have a 10. That won't work. And then you have other people, this kid made my weekend. He come up and he was looking at a backrest, like a rack or something. And he's like, hey, what do you want for this? And I told him the price, and he was like, oh man, I don't, and it's a swap meet. So, you negotiate. That's part of the fun of it. And, he goes, man, I only have this much. And I said, well, I tell you what, bud. I said, what are you putting it on? Because he didn't ask me what it fit. And he's like, I know it doesn't actually fit. But he was putting it on a Japanese cruiser. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. I'll sell it to you for that. But next month, I want you to ride the bike up here, and I want to see it. Mm-hmm. And you get the cool parts like that. We had somebody airbrushed a prisoner on a fairing, and some guy bought it, and he told us straight away, he goes, I'm not putting it on my bike, but I'll show you a picture of it on my garage wall. It's garage art. Like, it was awesome.
And then we saw him later that day leaving the swap meet he rode his motorcycle there, and it was bungee corded to the back of his bike. And we're like, there he goes.
And he ended up putting it on the bike. He ended up putting just the outside on, taking a picture, and then putting his old shit back on before he hung it on the wall, just so he could show us. But that's what this is all about. I mean, the cars and the bikes, and the reason that I'm kind of getting away from the bikes is, for quite a few reasons. I don't have a whole lot of in common with the people that ride motorcycles anymore. I'm not the guy that wants to ride bar to bar. I'm also not the guy that wants to haul ass to California on a road trip. But, you know, bebopping in traffic in the Florida heat doesn't tickle my fancy.
No. Even though we have good weather most of the time.
It's hard to convince yourself to change into long pants and boots. Yeah. And I refuse to ride in shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a hard decision. I mean, my bike it's sitting at my mom and dad's house. It will now make it to our house since we have covered parking now. And maybe that'll change my opinion on it. Maybe I'll ride it a little bit more when it's in my face and I have to look at it. But people can't drive.
No.
And, you know, and that's not a dig at any other state or anything like that. But there are a lot of people that are retiring to our state. You know, we live where people retire. And along with that comes people that probably shouldn't have driver's license.
Well, and not even just like the mix of people. I mean, I'm from out of state too. I mean, originally from Pennsylvania, and the people up there that drive are very aggressive drivers. And then they come down here where it's a little bit more relaxed and they still want to act aggressive. There might be, you know, older generations out there that shouldn't necessarily be driving anymore. But then you also have these young bucks that just got their driver's license and their face glued to their phone. Yep. You are driving a vehicle. Put your phone down. And
it only takes a minute to, you know, adjust the radio and now you're in my lane. And it's just, I've realized that that's not, I mean, and it can happen in a car. It can I don't want anybody to think like I'm down in bikes. Like I still love bikes, and if you see me out and you want to talk about your bike and not your car, cool. I'll talk about your bike. Like I'm good with it. Yeah. And I'm fixing to have an open wheel. All 4 tires are going to be exposed truck, and same stuff can happen. I mean, but you're a little, and we have no airbags or seatbelts. We die like men in this house. Yes. So, but you know, it's just a personal decision. And my mom referenced in last week's episode that she would never tell my dad to get rid of his bike, but you know, that's our decision. And I just don't enjoy it like I used to, but I enjoy throwing Ashley in the passenger seat of the 54 and going to Cruise for ice cream. Mm-hmm. You know, I enjoy, you know, and I enjoy going one more thing on the ride. But coming back up, you know, it's a long straight road. There's no red lights or anything. So I had her in fifth gear, and an S10 is forward on the dash. So, you know, you had space. I pulled Ashley over in the bench seat, kind of threw my arm around her, and it was kind of cool, you know, like we're perfect. Just cruising, we're having fun, you know, and that's what this is all about. Whatever you want to do to have fun, do it.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly speaking, for lack of better words, we fell in love with me on the back of the bike, but I'd much rather be next to you in a passenger seat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Betty means a lot to you, and you know I would never tell you to sell her because she means a lot to you. She means a lot to me. She's the first motorcycle I jumped on the back of. But now we're going to be making memories with vehicles start to finish with both of us.
Oh, yeah, and that's all about the memories. I mean, I remember the first time me and Ashley cruised up in the 54 to a show. I remember, you know, we're putting the manifold on and she starts saying words that I can't say on here.
Very loudly.
And she's bleeding all over the car. And
your dad's like,
Cracker Jack,
are you
this.
Okay? And I'm just cussing away.
But she went, got the blood stopped. She come back and she stuck her hand right where she just ripped a nail off. Mm-hmm. But it's part of it. I mean,
and we still made do with, what was it, the next day we went and worked on the bottom portion of the exhaust underneath the manifold. And I mean, I kept getting so frustrated with myself and getting pissed off because the bandage on my finger from ripping my fingernail off was getting in the way of me actually working on it. But it was still awesome. It's still
dealing with your bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, and you're gonna get little nicks and cuts, and brake cleaner will find all of them. But it's part of it. And when you can stand back and look at it and go, hey, I did that, or we did that, or man, ain't that cool? It's a good feeling. And I want other people to have that same feeling. And, you know, as long as we're bringing these cars back, or even new, or even new stuff, you know, nobody, or I won't say nobody, but very few people in our generation, you know, the mid-20s to mid-30 generation that we're both in, you know, there's not a lot of people that drove a Model A or a 54 to school. And, you know, but 90s pickup trucks, you know, I grew up in a small town that was redneck. So 90% of the high school parking lot was pickup trucks. Lucky. So those, you know, those kids that grew up in our generation have an identity of, you know, because every generation, you know, every quote unquote graduating class of any high school, you know, there's going to be the kids that their parents bought them a brand new car. But for the most part, it's the 10 to 15-year-old cars that, you know, mom and dad helped them buy.
Yeah. I mean, in my high school parking lot, it was a lot of like early 2000s Toyota Corollas. And then me whipping in my 94 Geo Metro. I will always remember that car though.
But that's what it is. So even if you're cruising around in a 90s Celica or a 90s Civic or whatever, someone's going to go, oh, I identify with that car. All cars, somebody out there is going to identify with them. You know, I might not, or the person that you're standing next to might not love or have an infatuation with the JDM cars, or, you know, BMWs or whatever, but as long as it makes you happy, a real car guy or car girl will stand there and talk to you. I want to know what, you know, I'm not going to tell you which, and I don't know what motors are, so, you know, I'll use a Fast and Furious reference. Like, I don't know if a Galileo 24 is better than a Galileo 32, you know, but if you do, talk to me about it.
Explain it to me, because I have no idea.
You know, tell me you did something cool, and I'll be happy for you. You know, and if it's something out of the box, definitely tell me about it, because I definitely want to hear about that. You know, you put a Cummins in a Prius? Hell yeah. Like, you know, or whatever it is, you know. There's a lot of cool cars out there that can be made cooler by some weird motor. You know, whether it be the most common Chevy motor in a Ford, or, you know, I seen one the other day that somebody put a Ford in a Chevrolet, but we don't know why that happened. But
were they tested?
They might have been. But it was a big block Ford, if that makes a difference. But
I don't know.
But I mean, whatever. But hey, maybe he was building a Chevrolet and he had a Ford motor sitting in the corner and he used what he had. You know, go for it. I don't care.
And I mean, now you're gonna remember that.
I don't remember what car it was. I just remember the sacrilegious of putting a Ford motor in a Chevrolet.
But it's all about, telling stories, passing on memories, and creating new memories. So now you're going to remember somebody somewhere put a Ford in a Chevy.
and there's performance in everything. I mean, there's fast Hondas, there's fast Toyotas, there's fast rotary motors. As annoying as they sound, they make power.
I vaguely remember how they work. I do believe I might have had an adult beverage or two that night, but
no. That's a Dorito. Basically is. But and that's whatever makes you tick. Get out, drive your shit. Somebody will like it, and if they don't, fuck them. As long as you like it.
And I mean,
and you're also never going to please everybody. No. So learn that right away. And that's with anything in life, not just cars. You're never going to make everybody happy, and if you do, you're doing something wrong.
And to add on to that a little bit, not just, own your shit, drive your shit, but like speaking as a wife that has an awesome husband. If you got an old lady and she wants to go out there and help you and ask those stupid questions, let her, bring her out there. And even if she's just sitting in the corner in a chair watching you do what you do, it might mean something to her, because it means the world to me. And I mean, that's the best part of every single day, is whether I get to watch you do something or help you work on it. I don't care. I just want to be a part of it. And I know I'm not, the only one that wants that. I'm sure there's plenty of ladies out there.
and even if your girl ain't into cars, but she likes cruising with you, and she wants to just post up in the corner and play on her phone or send you memes, let her be out there. Spend time with your people. I mean, whether it's family, we don't have them for, it's not that you're alive for such a short time, it's you're dead for so long, and the friends that you make are lifetime friends. I might not talk to the people that I've met every day, but I enjoy catching up. What have you been working on? What have you been doing?
What's the weather?
But and that's the thing is it doesn't have to necessarily always be about cars. Just be happy for people no matter what. Yeah. If you're into cars and they're not, be happy for what they're doing. Whether it's art, whether it's, I only pay attention to cars. But, whether it's a business, whether it's a passion that they have, whether it's books, photography, there's so many different interests out there. Ironically, most of them can come back to cars. Yes. I mean, if you have a buddy or a buddy's wife that's into photography and she's trying to do something, support her. Tell her, hey, I got cars. Come take pictures of them. Post them. Tag me. Send them to the Hot Rod Hangout podcast. I'll post them too. Like, if it gets you excited, have a blast with it. I have a guy I work with that he's probably 5% interested in cars. And I've told him numerous times, and I'm going to make him listen to this episode. I've told him numerous times, I will buy you a pinstripe kit. Learn how to pinstripe. Yeah. The kid is very, very good at art. Some weird stuff, but I dig it because I'm a little weird. And I've told him, I said, hey, man, when I get the 32 done and I get the body panels on it and it's bare metal and everything like that, I said, I'll give you free range. I'll give you a logo and you paint it on paper first. But, I'll let him go crazy because that's what it's all about. whether it's car related, whether it's life related. Just support the people that support you.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, also don't forget to show some support, if I could use my words, to Throttle Addict, and that's with a K, not a C. The link is in our link tree attached to our podcast, Facebook, everything. 15% off when you use the code word Hot Rod, and they have some pretty cool gear. I love my shirt. They have a shirt of Marilyn Monroe, and she is tatted up, and I love that. So yes, they do have lady stuff, hats, men's t-shirts,
sunglasses.
Yeah, all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely go check them out. Of course, shout out to the hometown hot rodder who is currently live as we're recording our podcast. The tremendous support that they've given us and put up with us and let us join their lives.
And thank y'all for everybody that's supported.
Yes.
Continue to like, share, comment, share it with your friends. Because even if you're not into cars, or if they're not into cars, they may know somebody that is. And we need to bring up, in this world, we need to bring the positivity back.
Mm-hmm.
So just support each other. Be nice. Be good. If you can't be good at it.
Yeah.
Later, guys.
See ya.